Hello. Selections from The Cry of the Gull by Emanuelle Laborit. In this lesson, we are presented with selections or extracts from the autobiography of the French actress Emanuelle Laborit. The title of her autobiography is The Cry of the Gull. In the extracts given to us, Laborit describes her childhood through her own perspective and from that of her mother. This is a very interesting title for one's autobiography, and one can only smile at the revelation. Belonging to a seafaring family or a family of sailors, Laborit was named Moot or Seagull. Why did they name her so? She used to make loud, shrieking sounds, just like a seagull, a bird familiar to the sailors. However, the author soon invites our attention to the irony of her nickname, since mute in French meant seagull and mute, M-U-E-T-T-E, meant without sound or without voice. The latter word is the same as mute, M-U-T-E in English. In French, the word for seagull and the word mute, M-U-E-T-T-E, meaning without sound or unable to speak, are both pronounced similarly. The readers are later informed that Emanuelle Laborit was born deaf. Unfortunately, her parents do not understand that their child is hearing impaired. She was a perceptive child, and although she could not communicate with her parents, she had created a small world in her own mind through her keen observation. Emanuelle could feel the vibrations from the ground or in the air and would turn her head in the direction of the noise. This confused the parents, as they thought she was reacting because she could hear the noises. They knew something was not right, but they convinced themselves, thinking they had a well-behaved child who did not put out tantrums or trouble them whenever they had guests in the house. They were exhausted trying to figure out if their child had a hearing problem. Very often, people who are close to us fail to notice our shortcomings. An outsider's perspective was necessary to find the problem. Finally, Uncle Fifu tells the parents that he felt Emanuelle could not hear sounds, and that is why she was screaming a lot. They take her to a pediatrician who too fails to identify the problem, as Emanuelle would react to vibrations made while clapping the hands or when the door was shut. Finally, the parents take her to a specialist who immediately comes up with an accurate diagnosis. Her parents were denying the fact that their well-behaved child, Emanuelle, was deaf. But then it is revealed that their child was having a problem hearing sounds. The love of the parents made them deny the inevitable. Finally, they had to accept it. This puts a lot of strain on their relationship. Both the parents begin to feel guilty for their child's disability. They try in vain to find how such a curse fell upon their child. Emanuelle's paternal grandparents, paternal means father's lineage. Emanuelle's paternal grandparents had got married in an institute for the deaf. Though this information is not revealed initially by the parents, Emanuelle comes to know about it much later. The fact that she mentions it in her autobiography suggests that there was some history of hearing impairment in their family. By presenting how her parents cope with Emanuelle's condition, the reader gets a different perspective of how a disabled person's family copes or adjusts both physically and mentally. The readers are drawn in to witness the helpless situation of the parents, as Emanuelle casually mentions how her continuous screams served a dual purpose. Her loud screams were a desperate attempt to feel alive in a mute world, to try in vain to distinguish between her silence and her screams. She also adds that she was screaming for her parents as well, who had subdued their emotions and their agony in front of their dear child. A therapist is assigned to Emanuelle, who trains her to speak. Her mother is also counseled and trained to support Emanuelle. Slowly, things change, and the mother and the daughter develop a bond as they begin to communicate. Just like the mother and the child is connected via the umbilical cord, CORD, umbilical cord, Emanuelle and her mother develop a deep bond and a code, COD, code, a secret language to communicate, which she rightfully calls her umbilical code. So umbilical cord, CORD, which connects the mother and the child. Emanuelle and her mother, they develop a secret sign language, which they call the umbilical code, COD. The father unfortunately feels left out as he is unable to communicate nor decode the umbilical code of this mother and daughter pair. Emanuelle recalls how her life changed when she was 7 years old. Her speech therapy began at this age, and she was able to make sense of the events happening around her. Earlier, she could not communicate with her parents and had no sense of time. Past, present, what is happening? She did not know. All the memories before the age of 7 was like a broken film consisting of random images without the help of sound to connect them. This narrative is heart-touching and encourages the reader to look at the challenges of life with positivity. This narrative is unique as it presents us with a direct account by a hearing impaired individual of how she and her family faced challenging situations and overcame them. This autobiography sheds light on the impact of sign language in Emanuelle's life and how speech therapy helped her connect with her mother. Emanuelle goes on to have a successful career and becomes a champion for the cause of the hearing impaired. We often say shallow statements just to encourage people with disabilities. Statements like, she may be deaf, but she's cute. She'll just be that much smarter. So Emanuelle Laborit quotes these kind of statements. She tells that these are shallow statements because if there is no change in the attitude of the community, then these statements don't really mean anything. Nobody can wish it away. Ensuring a better life for disabled people requires a positive attitude and a never-dying spirit. Such disability narratives are an essential part of disability studies and highlight the need of inclusive education as they help to fill in the gaps, providing information and, more importantly, perspective to the challenging situations. This is a wake-up call for a change in the attitude of the disabled people, their families, and the society as a whole. Apart from sensitizing the reader to the problems of disabled individuals, Laborit's autobiography presents a ray of hope as she teaches us through her own life and positive attitude to smile at the questions life asks of us.